Auburn is claiming more national championships. They've got multiple guys calling plays, playing multiple quarterbacks. What's fact and what's fiction with the Auburn Tigers as they get set to open the season at Baylor? Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along on today's show. We'll be joined by our buddy Zac Blackerby, host of Locked On Auburn, to answer all of the big burning Auburn questions. I'm Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And today's episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use our code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Talk about money. Zac, Auburn has just had they have not stayed out of the headlines this entire offseason, it feels like. There's been so many stories. I almost describe it as they take one step forward, they take one step back when it comes to national stories. Give me your vibe check on where are we? We're a week out from opening the season against Baylor. Where are we with all this negative attention and everything that Hugh Freeze and the Auburn program have had throughout this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if really any of this actually matters when you talk about Auburn's matchup with Baylor next Friday. I think your description is accurate as far as like what it might look like, but none of this stuff matters, Gordy. None of it actually matters as far as, okay, is Auburn claiming 2004 as a national champion? I'm glad everybody else does it. And now all of a sudden Auburn does it and everybody's like pitching a fit, but nobody's going to care about this in a week when people start playing games.
Yeah, let's start there because that's the biggest outrage that everybody's on. I think Auburn laid claim to 2 national championships in its history, and on Tuesday that number jumped to 9. So, look, the early ones, the ones back in the day, okay, whatever. It was, you had seasons where a team went 7-2, lost the Sugar Bowl, and still won the national championship somehow. So I get a lot of that was voting and all this, but 2004, sure, we saw it like. USC and Oklahoma started the preseason number 1 and 2. They went undefeated. They play for a title. Auburn went undefeated, but they weren't 1 or 2. And so it's kind of, it's kind of feels like at least that one, a lot of us were alive for and remember, like it's kind of what UCF did a couple years ago, claiming a national championship.
I do think it's a little different than the UCF one. If Auburn would have claimed it right when, all of the Heisman allegations and stuff happened where, those games were stripped, which whatever that means, from USC, I think that would have been a little bit better. I think they waited too long, Gordy. That 1993, I think, is kind of legitimate, but, it was a probation thing. So, like, how much does that actually matter or not? I don't know. But I think timing for this is a big part of it. And there were a lot of these discussions really ramped up towards the end of 2013 and then in the 2014 season. But the feel was, oh, you can't do this right after you lose a national championship. Of course, they lost to FSU in that game. And so then I think they just kind of kicked that can down the road. But John Cohen, Auburn's AD, I'm glad that he did it. I thought it was the right move.
Yeah, I think the big question most people have, like, if they did this back in February, I don't think, I think it makes news for a little bit, but like a week out from the start of the season, my question is why now? And, is this a slap in the face? Like, is this trying to take a slap back at Alabama because of all their quote unquote claimed national championship?
Not everything's about Alabama, Gordy. Like, everybody wants to bring up, not everything's about Alabama. I wish people would grasp that concept. These are about really good teams that Auburn wanted to honor. And Cohen's been pretty consistent with like wanting to honor, moments in Auburn's history. I think some of it had to do with the timing as far as putting up new signage at Jordan-Hare Stadium. And you got to announce it, I think, pretty close to when that happened. I actually disagree with you. I think it's better that they did it now than in February because I think that would have settled a lot longer. If you do it now, once week 0 hits, we're talking about college football again. I think everything that we're talking about now is old news in just a few days.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now, if SEC Nation goes to Auburn for any games, get ready for the signs, of we're claiming a championship after this win tonight, or that sort of thing. Again, for Auburn fans, I think
Whatever.
it's great. I mean, it's who cares what people say? It just kind of is what it is. But to your point, John Cohen has hit the nail on the head on some things that they've done, and namely just a couple days ago announcing that they're good. And this is where I say, like, there's one step forward, one step back, and some stuff.
Right.
One step forward, one giant leap forward is announcing they're going to retire Cam Newton's jersey. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, should have done it 10 years ago. Should have done it 10 years ago. Glad they finally did it. To me, like, this is the biggest no-brainer in the world. And then the pushback's like, well, nobody's worn it since then. It's been unofficially retired. Like, why? Like, we have a statue of him on campus outside of the stadium, for goodness sake. Hang his jersey up and don't let anybody ever wear two again officially. I've been asking for this for a long, long time, and I think that's a really big win for the Auburn Tigers.
Yeah, I mean, there's three guys that feel like, Tebow, Cam Newton, Joe Burrow of the last 20 plus years in college football should all
talk about
be
elite, greatest seasons ever, 100%.
Yeah. All right, let's get into some actual stuff with Auburn. Forget all the fuddy-duddy offseason stuff. Let's talk about.
I was expecting so much more from you.
Yeah. Oh, look, we got a game. We're almost in the game week here, Zach. So
is the play calling stuff coming, or are we just moving past that?
That's where we're
coming.
Where we're starting, because this made headlines all week ago, and I think the line that everybody glanced over was that Hugh Freeze has autonomy to change a play whenever he wants. But it does seem like a recipe for disaster when you see news that, Derek Nix is going to call plays on this down, and Ken Austin's going to call plays on this down, and Hugh Freeze is going to call plays on this down.
That's not even what he said, though. That's not even what he said. And,
okay,
there
so
were
clarify.
Some Auburn folks and, SEC writers and national folks that kind of got cutesy with it, because that's the fun thing to do with Hugh Freeze, is just twist his words just a little bit, and, everybody else is just going to pile on the guy. No, I think there's a few elements to this, Gordy. One is, like, let's talk about, like, what it is bare bones. I mean, he talked about, certain coaches having certain responsibilities when it comes to game prep and game management and all of that. You see that everywhere. There's another element of this where, like, this is why coaches don't answer questions fully, because this type of stuff happens. He never said one guy calls it on one down, another guy calls it on other downs. But you have people on staff, and I've asked around, this seems pretty common, where you have somebody who scouts first down and you have somebody who scouts third down. Like, that's a pretty common thing. And some places even break it down as far as down and distance goes. The other element of this, which I think is probably the more true version of this, and why he answered this question this way, Gordy, is, I don't know if you remember last offseason when there was, like, all this kind of controversy that Lane Kiffin was trying to stir. Shocker, when Auburn hired Derek Nix away from being the OC at Ole Miss to come to Auburn. Because in Derek Nix's contract at Ole Miss, he required a buyout if he left Ole Miss for a similar job elsewhere. It had to be a move up. And so Auburn has been very intentional with saying Derek Nix is a play caller, that he is calling plays and he is a part of the process of calling plays at Auburn. He said that a lot last year. He said it a lot this offseason. I think that's part of this as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because I remember we talked about that on Locked On SEC, that was part of the deal, is that even if Hugh, because remember, it was the whole talk was, is Hugh going to call all the plays? Is he running the offense? And even if he is going to, he can't say that, because they have to act like Derek Nix is calling the plays. So that said, I mean, with this being such an important season for Hugh, do you think he should be calling the plays on every down?
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's shown in the past, like, how good of a play caller he can be. And it's kind of up in the air, and the Auburn fan base is somewhat split on this, is like, okay, where has that been? And Auburn's numbers offensively weren't bad last year. They just couldn't score points, which feels ridiculous to say, but they had the yardage. They had, we all know. I mean, Jarquez Hunter had a solid year. Keandre Lambert-Smith had a solid year. Peyton Thorne, if he had played all the games, if you take Hank's numbers from when Peyton got benched and gave him to Peyton, like, he had a solid year statistically, but you don't win if you don't score points. And, Auburn's field goal kicking was brutal. That seems to be fixed. And, hopefully you're able to score more points in the red zone. They were awfully inefficient when it came to, money downs and as far as, converting points in the red zone. So how much of that is circumstance, which I think there's an argument for, and how much of that is play calling and key downs? I think there's a strong argument for both.
Will we see 3 quarterbacks next Friday against Baylor? We'll separate fact from fiction with Zach right after this crossover edition, Locked On SEC, Locked On Auburn. More with Zac Blackerby in just a second, but first, most people cannot name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k, properties they own, investments, and when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. And that's why there is Monarch Money. It is an all-in-one personal finance tool that is going to bring your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface, all on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. You are going to love Monarch Money. They're going to make it simple for you to review your finances with your partner. You can see your budgets, your goals, all your spending activity in one place. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use our code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That is 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. Also, want to let you guys know, if you're running a business, every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you needed a service. If the first person didn't answer, did you wait? Probably not. You moved on to the next company. That's why you need Open Phone, so you never miss an opportunity to connect with your customers. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system designed to streamline and scale your customer communications. And look, your whole team is going to be able to share one phone number, respond to customers like a shared inbox. No more, who's handling this? Are you handling this? And the AI agent even is going to handle after-hours calls for you, answer some common questions that callers might have, and capture leads so you never miss a customer again. See why over 60,000 businesses trust Open Phone. They're offering our Locked On listeners 20% off your first 6 months if you head to openphone.com/LockedOnCollege. That's openphone.com/LockedOnCollege. They'll even port over your existing phone numbers for free. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers with Open Phone. Continue our conversation. Zac Blackerby, Locked On Auburn. Chris Gordy, Locked On SEC. And Zach, again, we talk about headlines and maybe getting taken out of context. Hugh Freeze saying Auburn could play 3 quarterbacks in their opener at Baylor. Of course, everybody immediately jumps to, if you got more than one quarterback, you ain't got any. I don't think that's what Hugh meant. Clarify it for us.
I mean, I don't fully know what Hugh meant. I can guess. I mean, he didn't come out and say, you can expect us to play 3 quarterbacks against Baylor, which once again, we love to slightly twist Hugh Freeze's words and everybody just piles on. I mean, there's no better way to get cred on the internet than to slightly twist Hugh Freeze's words, and everybody, you're just going to get retweeted up into the heavens. It's crazy. And I don't really feel like you see that for other coaches. Whatever. He was asked point blank at Tiger Talk, his weekly coaches show, about, is there a chance we could see all 3? And he said yes. Yeah, he just said yes to a question. Now, like, why did he do that? I don't know. That wouldn't line up with what we've seen throughout fall camp. I mean, this appears to be Jackson Arnold's show. And as we record this Tuesday night, the last viewing window of Auburn's fall camp was earlier today. And they did a lot of pace drills with everybody cycling out, except Jackson Arnold stayed in. Like, Jackson Arnold was the quarterback and everybody else kind of rotated around him. I mean, they obviously could have packages for Deuce and for Ashton. I just don't think that makes sense with Jackson Arnold. If you've got a guy who's not mobile, okay, like maybe that's a way to ease in Deuce Knight because he's the future of the program. But we all remember what Jackson Arnold did against Alabama last year. I mean, that was kind of like his signature moment, and it was pretty much all on the ground. So we know that he's athletic and can run the football. So I don't really get the argument for that. The orange and blue glasses maybe think, he thinks we're going to beat Baylor by so much that it's just going to be mop-up duty that, everybody's going to be able to play. That's got to be it, right, Gordy?
Well, I'll say this. Dave Aranda is a defensive-minded coach,
Right.
why not at least put it on his radar that he's got to prepare for all three?
That's
guys,
an argument too.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's
30 minutes watching Stanford tape last year of Ashton Daniels. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, Nick Saban is famous for he used to use his coach's show for putting messages out there, really messages for his team. But I think at times coaches will put stuff out there. Lane Kiffin has done it to make the other team second guess themselves and go, "Oh crap, are we going to see Deuce Knight in this game? We better be ready." So, yeah, I'm with it. I'm excited to see Jackson Arnold. Look, I'm one of the people that buy into his talent. I still think that 5-star talent is somewhere deep down in there, and we can see it. And he's going to be surrounded by the best talent that he's been surrounded by. So let me rewind, about a week or two at camp, comes out that Hugh Freeze is kind of getting into it with Jackson Arnold. I saw that and I thought, no big deal. Like, I want my coach to get into it with my quarterback because he's demanding greatness. He's demanding you to be good. So I thought that was much ado about nothing, but what'd you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, it looked like a coach coaching his quarterback to me. I mean, you see that happen all throughout college football. I mean, you see it at high school, you see it at the NFL. Like, frustration. It's a passionate game. There's a lot of ego and emotion and competitiveness and desire to be great. And I think that's all that it was. I mean, you brought up Nick Saban a second ago with his coach's show. Like, I think we've seen Nick Saban throw some things from time to time. I think I don't think this is a story. If there's a camera on Brian Kelly and Nuss makes a wrong read and he throws something, it's like, okay, he's coaching his quarterback. Once again, there's no better way to get internet points than to post something about Hugh Freeze.
Well, but again, they've taken bullets. They've taken shots, unwarranted, warranted, whatever. But I mean, there was a story a few weeks ago of, we go easy on our quarterback. We told DJ Durkin, hey, take it easy on Jackson because we want him to build up his confidence.
That's amazing. Like, and even if you do that, which I don't think is awful strategically, you can't let that get out. That's one for sure. I'm like, I don't know if I can defend that one.
Well, let's get into it, Zach. A week from Friday, Waco, Texas, we are going to have Baylor versus Auburn. And I hate to put the pressure on Hugh. I mean, it is a must win. I've been saying it's a must win for Hugh. I think he has to win this game. But pride of the SEC is on the line. I mean, think of all the national people that want to pounce and go, oh, big bad SEC. You lose to Baylor, terrible Baylor from the Big 12. So break it down for us, man. I was at the Texas Bowl. I got to see Sawyer Robertson against LSU. And look, they didn't go away. LSU
quarterback
looked like they were going to pull away, and they didn't let up. So he's a good quarterback. What's your initial thoughts on what we're going to see next Friday night?
Yeah, I think if you're Auburn, you want to make it messy. I think you want to make it a physical game. I think you want to look more like an SEC game opposed to a Big 12 game. I think if you let offenses kind of get away and create space, I think that favors Baylor for sure. If it's fireworks, Baylor probably has a better shot of winning. If it's a, rough physical game, 27-21 type game, I think Auburn has the edge. I think the biggest mismatch in favor of all, everybody talks about Auburn has the talent except for a quarterback. Like, I would take Sawyer Robertson over Jackson Arnold, which I'm really not going to push back against that. But those two guys aren't ever going to match up with one another. They're not on the field at the same time. And I think when you look at individual matchups, there's not really a spot where I favor Baylor over Auburn. And this is totally physical because that's all we can look at right now is what rosters are. And I think the biggest mismatch is in the trenches. I think Auburn's O-line is better than Baylor's D-line. And I think Auburn's D-line is better than Baylor's O-line. They've got some receivers that they really, really like. They really like their running back, obviously like their quarterback. Like, they've got pieces for sure. But I think if the game is equally coached and the schemes are equal, I think Auburn wins because of trench play.
Yeah, I would even say Auburn's receivers versus Baylor's DBs. I mean, that's advantage Auburn. They're just bigger. They're physical.
There's just other things that go into that, right? Like, I've questioned the scheme of Hugh Freeze pretty consistently since he's been here. And then obviously Jackson's got to get him the football. And there's kind of been mixed reviews on what exactly that looks like. But sure, in a vacuum, yeah, absolutely. I'm taking Cam Coleman and Eric Singleton over whoever they got at DB.
And I'll make it as simple as this. If Auburn protects the football, doesn't turn it over, they're going to win the game. I mean, that's just that's where they shot themselves in the foot so many times. Not just last year, the last 2 years. When Auburn's in games and they give away the ball late and get stupid with the football, protect the football, Auburn will win this game next Friday in Baylor. But there's some great storylines, Zach. Kobe Prentice, former Alabama wide receiver, Michael Trigg, former Ole Miss tight end. But
Sure.
the one that intrigues me most, and if we're talking like nightmare scenario for Auburn, is that they knock out Sawyer Robertson in the first quarter.
Yeah.
And in comes Walker White, the former Auburn quarterback, to lead Baylor to a win. That would be the most nightmare scenario to me.
Yeah. I think there's a pretty sizable drop off between Sawyer and Walker White, but to your point, that would make it worse, right? If that were to, in theory, happen. Obviously Baylor comes to Jordan-Hare next year, and it's kind of assumed Walker will be the guy, and that'll be, that storyline is going to be driven into the ground by the time that game's played.
Well, much like Jackson having to go to Norman as well. That storyline will be driven into the ground.
For sure. Yeah.
I know we're a week out, Zach, but give me a prediction. And do you think this is a must win like I'm making it out to be?
Well, first, I think Auburn wins the game. Is it a must win? It feels like it. Like, can Auburn still achieve the goals that are in front of them if they lose this game? Sure. But man, it gets a lot tougher. You definitely put yourself behind the 8 ball. A lot of it comes down to Auburn's first 3 road games of the year. At Waco, you go to Norman to take on Oklahoma, as you just mentioned, and then you go to Aggie Land to take on Texas A&M. For Auburn to, talk about a dream scenario of 9-3 or better, you got to go 2-1. You got to go 2-1 in those games. See what happens when you play Georgia. See what happens when you play Alabama. And then the stretch between Georgia and Alabama, I think Auburn's going to be favored in all of those games. It's the easiest schedule Auburn's had that I can remember in my lifetime. And if you can just survive through Georgia, you've got a shot at some really, really cool things.
I'm sticking with the Tigers as well. I'm a Hugh Freeze believer, and I'm a Jackson Arnold believer. So don't jinx
Are
it.
you really?
I like them both. I want them to succeed. This is the misconception. People are like, you're hating on Auburn. No, I want them to succeed. But if they lose this game, Zach,
It's tough.
I'm crapping on them. I'm selling my stock. I'm on the fire Hugh Freeze bandwagon if it happens. So give me a more reason to believe you, and let's see. Zach, always good to catch up, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, more Locked On SEC coming your way right after this. Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. And preseason is already heating up. College football starts up next week. Whether you got your eye on big name quarterbacks or breakout running backs, Prize Picks makes it easy for you to get into the game. It's super easy to play Prize Picks. All you're doing is picking more or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections. You think Saquon Barkley is going to go over the projected rush total? You think Josh Allen's going to throw for over the projected passing total? If you get your picks right, you could cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. I've used Prize Picks for a couple of seasons now. And like I said, we love how simple it is. You can get your lineup in before your coffee's even finished brewing. The flex play option is a total game changer. Even when one of your picks misses, you can still double your money. Prize Picks also puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use our code LOCKEDONCollege. You get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code LOCKEDONCollege. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 play. Prize Picks, you can run your game. Also, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. August 26th, it is coming up, and it is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is going to give you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, you're eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. You want to take a flyer in the MVP race? How about you think Joe Burrow's maybe going to get some defensive help and win MVP? You want to crown your champion in August? A lot of people jumping on the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen, or you can parlay your division winner dark horses. You think somebody, Atlanta Falcons, maybe a dark horse in the NFC South, you can make that over at FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel today, join the or visit the app today. Start planning your future bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. That will be August 26th. It is FanDuel. Play your game with FanDuel. All right, roll along here. Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Thanks again to Zac Blackerby for joining us. And we got plenty of news and tidbits we got to jump into going around the conference, even the latest on the Mizzou quarterback battle. But first, as we dive back into it, we have got to start over at Texas, as Texas Longhorns and Steve Sarkisian entering the 2025 season with high expectations. Arch Manning is set to begin his first season as starting quarterback. And the Longhorns, the number one team in the coaches poll, the number one team in the AP poll, and now ESPN. They have dropped their preseason power rankings ahead of week 0, and Texas is at the top of that list as well. ESPN's Dave Wilson writing the Longhorns are the preseason number one for the first time in school history. Shockingly enough, there's star power everywhere, especially on defense. Anthony Hill, Colin Simmons, Trey Moore, Michael Taft all return on one of the country's best units. They'll need it in week 1 against a good Ohio State team on the road. But both teams look different than they did a year ago. Texas's questions are all up front on both lines, where there'll be 4 new starters on the O-line and a new rotation on the defensive line after losing 5 of last year's top 6 D linemen. Yes, Arch Manning will finally start, and he's likely to air it out a lot. But the number 1 ranking going to get tested very quickly, as the Longhorns will be on the road at Ohio State in week 1. Look, I've been saying this for the last couple weeks. National overreaction is going to happen whatever happens in that game. If Texas wins, they're going to crown, look, Arch Manning is going to be the favorite for the Heisman. He's going to be in the driver's seat for the Heisman. Texas, everybody's going to be picking them. They're, favored to win the national championship and all that. If they lose, though, don't overreact, right? Like, even if Arch plays a good game and they lose, let's not say he's a bust. Texas is overrated. The SEC sucks. We have to find a middle ground here. If Texas wins a close, ugly game, okay, great. They won a game. We're not crowning them the champs. And if they lose the close game, it's on the road at Ohio State. 99% of the country would lose this game. So, again, I think we should temper expectations, but it's not what we're going to do. We're all going to overreact one way or another. But kudos to Texas. If anybody can handle, I think Steve Sarkisian is a guy who's been battle-tested, and he's going to have his team in the right mindset and ready to handle whatever comes at them this season. How about over at Missouri? Eli Drinkwitz. He has got a quarterback battle going on, and he isn't tiptoeing around the battle. Competition is narrowed down to Beau Pribula, the transfer from Penn State, and Sam Horn. Both have been putting in strong efforts, according to ABC 17 News, and making the decision very hard for Eli Drinkwitz. Yesterday, it was reported Drinkwitz plans to finalize a quarterback decision within the next 24 hours. That would be today. So probably if you're watching this, Missouri has hopefully named a starter. I think it's going to be Beau Pribula. It would be a shocker to me at this point if they were to name Sam Horn the starter. But look, couldn't they get by playing both guys next Thursday, a week from tomorrow? Missouri is going to kick off the season against Central Arkansas. 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern on SEC Network in Como. We'll see what the quarterback play looks like there from Mizzou. But I'm excited about Ahmad Hardy in the backfield. Excited to see what new wide receiver weapons step up in the absence of Luther Burden. I'm excited. So, look, Beau Pribula or Sam Horn, excited to see either of those guys out there next week. How about over at Alabama, getting a little bit of clarity on Jam Miller's upper body injury, confirming he dislocated his collarbone during Saturday's preseason scrimmage at Alabama. Says everything's better now that it's back in place. Kalen DeBoer said Miller underwent surgery Saturday evening. They're hoping, again, target date to get him back against number 5 Georgia on the road on September 27th. But they're going to lean on the likes of Richard Young, Daniel Hill, and maybe even Dre Washington to fill those gaps in the run game. How about over at Tennessee? Josh Heupel talking his wide receivers on Tuesday said 3 of the team's best route runners, Mike Matthews, Chris Brazzell, and Braylon Staley, were all back on the practice field after they've been battling minor injuries during camp. They've got 7 scholarship receivers on the roster. Depth is going to be a major point of emphasis for Tennessee throughout the season. Of course, Mike Matthews, former 5-star recruit. A lot of people expected him to have a big breakout year. Brazzell came over from Tulane 2 seasons ago, or prior to last season, we should say, and kind of underwhelmed. He was okay, but I think all expectations were he was going to be a big-time playmaker for them. And look, it could be this year. So we shall see. But fresh off of naming Joey Aguilar the starting quarterback. Excited to see what Tennessee is going to look like over there. How about over at Arkansas? Sam Pittman speaking at the Little Rock Touchdown Club, and the program unranked in the preseason polls. Sam Pittman telling a room full of Razorback fans, I don't know what the guys who never played it down for us predicted, but I know that we have a really good freshman class. If you don't want to rank us, that's fine. We'll surprise a lot of people. Pittman wanted to say we got a really good football team. We're excited to get out there and play. Got Taylon Green back at quarterback. Bobby Petrino calling plays defensively. 8 starters return. Xavier Story at linebacker. Cam Ball on the D-line. So excited to see what Arkansas is going to look like. And lastly, Nick Saban taking a shot at Greg McElroy for that rumor that started at SEC Media Days back in July, saying that Nick Saban very interested in a return to the sidelines. While Nick Saban addressing those comments at the Saban Legacy Awards on Monday night, Nick Saban saying, I don't know where that came from. Greg McElroy played quarterback for us, and if he had done something like that when he was a player, he would have got his ass kicked. So Nick Saban, looking forward to seeing him on the game day crew coming up next week in Columbus, where he will not be coaching. He will be a media member once again. All right, thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. For your second listen, you can check out the Portal Show with Brian Smith. Get caught up on all the latest news and rumors happening in college football. Find the Portal wherever you find your podcast. I'm Chris Gordy. This has been Locked On SEC. Our thanks again to Zac Blackerby. We will talk to you guys tomorrow right here on Locked On SEC.